So you're going to start by coming down onto your back. And this is where you'll need your pillows to start. So if you feel like your head is falling backwards like that, then that's really normal. I'm actually propped up on my ponytail, so it's like I've got a slim pillow underneath me. But if we happen to be a little bit broader, or if you've got quite a lot of muscle bulk, then quite often you will feel like your head is falling backwards. Also, if you sit at a desk a lot and you're a little bit flexed, again, you'll feel like your head is falling backwards a little bit. So what we want to do is just lift that head up so it's kind of in line with the rest of you. Now we're going to put your hands on your pelvis, and I'm going to give you a really quick anatomy lesson. So these bony bits in the middle of your hips are your hip bones. We've got your sit bones, which are the bony bits in the middle of your bottom. You've got your pubic bone that sits in the front, kind of at the top of your legs, and you've got your tailbone, which sits at the back. So all you're going to do is be really nice and comfortable here, and I want you to relax, and you're going to let everything go. So that includes your bottom muscles, your back passage, your tummy, your head, everything. It should be easy here. And I just want you to start to breathe. Just normally, we're going to stay breathing in and out through your nose. And you're just going to feel with your hands on your tummy that your tummy can expand and then can drop again. So this is really normal. This is what we want. As you breathe in, it's like we're going to push air down, right down into your tummy. And as you breathe out, the air is going to come all the way back up, tummy to chest, and all the way out. Now, breathing at rest should always be through your nose. So when we do some of the simpler movements, you can just keep breathing through your nose. If you want a little bit of help to get a bit more kind of awareness around your tummy, we can breathe out through your mouth. Now with that, we want to be able to keep a really soft mouth. So I want everyone to take a really big breath in through their nose. And then you're going to open your mouth and just sigh out. And then you're going to keep going. Keep doing that for me. So what you'll notice is that if you sigh out and really press the air up, you're going to feel your tummy naturally getting a bit harder. It's going to naturally work. And you're not trying to do it in a really short, sharp way, but just this really long, gradual kind of breath out. It's like you're almost imagining your breath is going all the way up to the ceiling. So that's how you can get a little bit more awareness into your tummy. Now we're going to start with just our simple pelvic tilts. So with your hands kind of on your tummy, we're going to go fingers onto your pubic bone, thumbs up onto towards your tummy button. You're going to start to rock your pelvis backwards. So your pubic bone will go up towards the sky. Then I just want you to relax your bottom and let yourself come back to the middle. And you're going to do that again. So again, we've got that tuck your tailbone under and then just relax your bottom. And we're going to do this. I want you to squeeze your bottom really, really hard. Now, if you squeeze your bottom really, really hard, you'll feel your sit bones come together a little bit. And you also might feel yourself rock back. Then if you relax your bottom, you'll feel your sit bones come apart. And you might drop back into this relaxed kind of normal position. So just do that a couple of times for me. So imagine your sitting bones. Feel them come together, kind of see it in your head. And then relax your bottom and see your sitting bones come apart. Now we want to control that, so we're never going to try and squeeze anything as we're doing any of this stuff. Your body will give as much forces as necessary for you to achieve the movement that we're asking it to do. So with your hands on your pubic bone, we're going to go back to that pelvic tilt. And all I want you to feel is that as you tuck your tailbone under, your sit bones will naturally come together a little bit. And if you feel your bottom, there is a little bit of work happening in your bottom, but nothing crazy. And then as you relax your bottom and really try and spread your sit bones, you'll just roll over your tailbone to come back to this base position. And we're going to do that a few more times. So I just want you to feel this sense of your sit bones closing together and then your sit bones coming apart. And quite often we find that it's easier as we're tucking our tailbone under for us to breathe out to do it. And that's partly because our front will always follow our back, or we want it to anyway. So hopefully that's the direction your tummy's going. So this is where your thumbs come in. So as you're tucking your tailbone under, you should feel your tummy just fall back towards the floor. And as you stick your bottom out, your tummy will rise a little bit. there's really not much going on in your tummy. The number of times I see people do a pelvic tilt and they're really pushing their tummy up in order to try and flatten their back to the floor. But actually, what I want you to feel is a lot less than that. It's a lot easier. This should be at like 0.5% of your strength, because we're asking your spine, your pelvis, your hips to just move a little bit. And if I say to you, notice the back of your head, so the back of your head as we do this movement will be gliding a little bit on this floor. So it'll be moving up, it'll be moving down, and it'll be moving depending on where your pelvis is telling it to go. Now this is distributed movement. So this is how we can start to bring our whole body together to make really effective moves. So I'm going to get you to pause after this one, and you're going to settle somewhere in the middle. Okay, so that should be a really relaxed place. We've got a little bit of a gap underneath our lower back. There's a bit of a gap underneath our neck, and that's because those are the natural curves in our spine. So in all my classes, you'll hear me talk about this heaviness in the back of your tail, back of your ribs, back of your head. That means that we can keep our primary curve, so the natural S-shaped curve of our spine. And if you move your hands out to your hip bones, you can feel that they're relatively level. And what we're going to do is almost like a seesaw movement with them. So you're going to let one hip bone drop down towards the floor, and the other hip bone will lift up. And then you're just going to relax and come back to the middle. And you're going to do the other side. So drop one hip bone down towards the floor, and the other one will lift up. And then come back to the middle. And I want you to keep going with that. So you're just going to alternate between the two sides. And you're going to first have a little look down your nose and just check out your thighs. Now what we'd like is that your thighs are moving up and down rather than side to side. So it's almost like I've got two panes of glass either side of your thighs. You hear that a lot in Pilates, and you don't want to break the glass. So can you keep that sense of your thigh bone heading up as one goes down? And I'm going to draw your attention to your feet. So I'm a big believer in, if we, Newton's laws, every force has an equal and opposite reaction. So if you push into something, something else will happen. So notice your feet. So as you press down into one foot, you'll feel that that leg can come up. And it's almost like you've got no weight through the other foot. If you transfer the weight to the other side, that hip bone will come up and the other will drop, because you're shifting your weight. So that's what I want you to feel. I want you to feel that this movement doesn't just come from your hands and from your hip bones, but it comes from you pressing into the floor. So if we press into the floor, we can create muscle tension, we can create stability, we can create lots of different things. But find that weight in your feet. See if you can feel that that's the reason you can tilt like a seesaw. So we'll make this one our last one. And then just pause somewhere in this middle. And you're going to settle there. And from here, we're going to let our hands come down by our side, and we're going to come into a bridge. Now, I'm really okay with you bridging with a pillow behind your head. And the only time it becomes a problem is if it's giving you this. So if you feel like you're really crunching through the top of your neck when you're up there, take the pillow away, give yourself slightly less of a pillow, doesn't matter, but you just don't want to feel that crunch. The last thing we want you to do is be lying here really looking almost behind you, because you'll strain your neck anyway. Now, for a basic bridge, we're going to have your feet in line with your sitting bones, hands by your side. And I want you to just gently press your hands into the floor, particularly through this outside border of your hand. And if you do that, you'll feel your shoulders open, and you'll feel a little bit of pressure into the back of your armpit muscles, and I mean a little bit. From there, I want you to push down into your feet. You'll feel that start to trigger your pelvis to roll backwards. So remember our pelvic tilt. If you keep pushing into your feet, your pelvis will keep rolling backwards and it will start to come up. Now we're doing this really slowly, okay? So your body is hanging off your legs. And the more you press down into your feet, the more your hips will come up. you're going to pause at the top. Now the top, where is it? It's when your shoulder blades are still roughly on the floor and your head, neck, shoulders is nice and settled. You should be feeling the back of your thighs, your bottom, and a bit of a stretch through the front of your thighs here. And then we're just going to come back down again. So just let that spine come all the way to the floor. Relax your bottom. Let that tailbone land. We're going to come again. So again, take the up really slow. You're going to stand into your feet. Feel how by pushing down into the floor, your pelvis is just naturally responding to you. Keep pushing down onto the floor. I want you to notice if you try and lift from here, from this kind of rib curtain place, almost like you're going ta-da with your ribs. And see if you can just sigh into your chest and let them settle back down. Hold it at the top. And you're going to ask yourself these questions. Is my head nice and heavy? Are my shoulders still on the floor? Am I standing into my feet? Can I feel the back of my legs working? And is it in my back? So this should not be in your back. And then from here, pull your heels towards your bottom and slowly just lay yourself down. Let your sit bones widen as you come down to give yourself space along the mat. So we're not trying to come down one bone at a time. We're trying to come along this mat to almost decompress you. We're going to go again. So just have that feeling. Stand into those feet. Let yourself just settle and roll all the way up. Pause at the top. Nice big breath. And then pull those heels towards your bottom. As your ribs start to settle down, relax your bottom to come down so we get this lovely distributed curve and all the way out. Make sure you've let go completely. We go again. Now the reason I'm not asking you to tuck your tailbone under is because I want you to find that this can come from your legs, from your feet. Now if you are feeling this in your back, yes, you can tuck your tailbone under a little bit more to make sure you're not lifting from your spine. But what we really want you to feel and what we want you to remember is that there are curves in your back. So you are naturally going to feel your mid-back come down, this one bone at a time. But when it comes to your lower back, you won't, because it naturally curves in. So it's never going to feel the same as it comes to the floor. And that's really normal and that's okay. What we want you to feel instead is almost, if my knees are going away from me, my heels are pulling towards my bottom. So we've created this kind of circle of force around our legs. If I keep those knees reaching away from me, so I'm delaying my knees coming down, I'm pulling my heels towards my bottom, there's your back of your thigh, I'm rolling down, I'm spreading my sit bones, so I'm almost abseiling off the back of my thighs, I will come along this mat and get longer, and when I land, there's a nice soft bit in the front of my hip. So we're going to do that one more time. Really stand into those feet. Let yourself come up, check in at the top. Are you just hanging off your legs? And then see if you can come along this mat. We've woken up the back of your legs by now. Let yourself land and pause there. We're going to take your hands back onto your tummy for me. We're going to have both hands on your tummy so we can span the whole of it and have a feel about what's going on. And again, just let everything go so the back of you is nice and settled onto the floor, and just check in with those 3 heavy spots. If you got rid of your pillow because you felt crunched in your neck, then you're just going to allow your pillow to come back and keep your head nice and rested on it. Now, all we're going to do is lift one leg to what we call tabletop. So one leg comes up. Now, tabletop is kind of up here somewhere. This is lazy tabletop. And somewhere in between is where you might want to be. Then you're going to pop that foot to the floor. You're going to lift the other leg to tabletop and back down again. And I want you to see how easy that was. Hopefully that was really easy. And hopefully most of you did it without even thinking. It was simple, it was straightforward. Okay? And I just want you to keep going with that, just like you're walking. And first thing you should notice is nothing has popped in your tummy, really nothing has changed. So we're going to move our hands to our hip bones. And I want you to focus on the back of you. So what you'll feel a little bit of is that you've got a little bit of a rock side to side. Now, it's almost like your pelvis is a lily pad on a pond. So it's gently moving side to side, but it's not shifting and rocking. There's not lots of stuff happening. And again, you're just trying to keep that really gentle balance either side. So if I say to you, push down into one leg to let the other leg feel lighter and lift up, see if that makes it even easier and see if you feel like you shift and you move less. So press down into one leg to allow the other leg to get lighter and lift. So again, as we press down, something can come up. And hopefully what you've noticed there, by kind of transferring some of the weight into your feet, you have just allowed the other leg to be a bit lighter. But have you let your tailbone tuck under? Hopefully the answer is no. But those natural heavy spots, so that back of your tail, back of your ribs, back of your head, is all relatively the same. And we're going to pause with one leg up there. You're going to stay here. Now, let that leg come to lazy tabletop. And I just want you to take, again, your hands back onto your tummy. You're going to take a nice big breath in, feel your tummy rise. And then sigh out through your mouth. Feel like you're pushing the air from your tummy all the way out through your mouth. Feel those tummy muscles kind of come together a little bit and work. And then again, big breath in and big breath out. Good. Now, if you want to delve into this a little bit more, we've got a short kind of basic tutorial on abdominals and how to get your tummy working, so you can drop back on that. But otherwise, use that breath, so use that sigh out and imagine that air's coming from the base of your tummy all the way out. Your tummy still rises and falls. On your next exhale, as you sigh out, we're going to let the other leg come to tabletop, and it's still in lazy tabletop now. We're going to let one leg come down and then the other. And we're going to repeat that. So one leg comes up, sigh as the other leg comes up. Let one leg come down and the other. Now, if you're finding that you feel like you're tensing quite a bit, pop your hands down by your side and you can give them a gentle press into your side. It just gives you a little bit more support. So again, let one leg lift, press into your hands as you let the other leg lift. So your hands are now acting like your feet. So just like we gave pressure to let one leg lift, this time if you press both of your hands into the floor, you might feel like it's a little bit easier to lift the legs. So if you're anything like me, you've been doing the same leg leading. I don't feel like we naturally on this one alternate. So we're going to make this one our last one, and then we're going to switch. So we're going to go one leg and the other. And keep going for me. Now, yes, you will feel this in the front of your hips, but what we want you to feel is that the back of you, so the back of your tail, back of your ribs, back of your head, are all staying relatively the same. So you're not trying to force your back into the floor in order to lift the leg, particularly the second leg, but you're keeping your natural curves the same. You're still able to breathe, talk, hold a conversation. You can just feel your tummy working a little bit, not your back. And if you do feel it a little bit in your back, I want you to stick really close so you're in nice lazy tabletops as those shins are really heavy, or just chuck your feet up on some books so you're coming from a higher height and just work there whilst you can. And then you just slowly take away the books and progress it in order to be able to come up into tabletop. So we're going to do one more, but we're going to stay up there, hold it there. Bring your legs together so we go toes, ankles, knees, thighs, everything together. And we're just going to really just feel those tummy muscles working a little bit. Give everything a squeeze. There's your inner thigh. And as you sigh, start to take the legs away from you. How low do they go? just until the point where you feel your tummy muscles switch on. They really don't need to go lower than that. And then from here, bring your legs back in again. So we're going to do the same movement, but we're going to hold it out there and take some breaths. So we call it time under tension in those muscles. So squeeze the legs, start to take them away. Feel the point where the muscles just switch on. This is not in your back, this is not anywhere else. You're not feeling it raging through your quads. You're not trying to get your feet to the floor. It's just at the point where you feel your tummy muscles switch on. And at that point you can stay, you can breathe, you can talk to anybody that's around you, you can shout at me if you want, and then bring them back in again. Again, is everything touching from your big toe to your heel ankle bone, all the way up through to your thigh. Give it a little squeeze, and then start to take it away. Now that squeeze is really important, and that squeeze is actually the basis for a lot of movement, and then our progression is to separate the legs. And that's partly because our inner thighs work with our deep tummy muscles in order to give us stability. And then bring it back in again. Promise we're only going to do one more of those. So squeeze those legs, start to take them away from you. Feel that tummy muscle switch on. Can you still breathe? Again, this isn't in your back. Those 3 heavy points have stayed the same. Nothing is changing. We are just moving that hip in your hip socket. Bring the legs back in. Give your knees a bit of a cuddle. You're going to roll side to side, almost like you're massaging that back out on the floor. And you can make little circles. You can separate your legs. This is almost a little bit of you time. If you do circles, just go in the opposite direction as well. You might get a few clunks, a few creaks. That's okay. And then just let your feet come back to the floor. Now we're going to move to our arms. So you're going to let both arms reach up towards the ceiling. And I want you to just feel what's going on. So again, we've got the same thing. Feet are in line with our sitting bones, which means that they're roughly in line with the middle of our hips. So our hip joint is in the middle of our knicker-line, okay? Your back of your ribs, back of your tail, back of your head are all nice and heavy. And this time we've got a bit of feedback for our shoulders. So I want you to reach your fingertips up towards the ceiling, and you'll feel this kind of back of your shoulder lift off. And then just let them sink down again. Now you'll feel the bony bit in the top of your kind of shoulder blade sink into the floor and stay a little bit heavy. And your arms should be roughly on the outside of you. Now from here, just notice that bony bit, and you're going to try and keep that bony bit the same, i.e. it stays on the floor as your hand goes backwards. Now that's the easy part. Can it keep staying on the floor? So it's almost like as your arm tips up, your shoulder drops into the floor and into the mat to come up. We're going to do the same arm for me. So feel that arm release. You've got to let go through this armpit muscle, through this lat. And then can it come back up again? It's like it's pulling you back up from that armpit muscle, but is it still heavy into the floor? So if you think of a bowling ball or lawn bowls or anything that rolls along the floor, that's basically what your arm is doing. It's just rolling along. Nothing's changing. And you're feeling almost this little finger to armpit muscle working. But again, unless your arms are really, really heavy, how hard are you working? Probably a couple of percent. What I want you to feel more of is, can you keep that arm heavy into the floor? We're going to change. So the other arm goes back. Now notice the difference. So I am right-handed and my left shoulder feels stiffer. So I can feel kind of as I do this a bit of a pull through my shoulder, through that kind of muscle that sits at the top and on the outside. I feel a little bit of a pull, a bit more through my bicep. All of that's really, really normal. But again, the focus is, can you keep that arm bone dropping back into the socket? So use your mat as a nice piece of feedback. So as the arm comes up, the arm bone, the head of the arm bone just drops into the floor. So I'm going to get you to pause there, and we're going to try and do this with both arms. So again, you might need a couple of pillows, and how far back you go will partly depend not only on your shoulder range, but on your mid-back range. So you're going to start to take your arms back over your head. Can you release through your armpit muscles? Now that's as far as I can go. If I go any further, I feel like I'm going to do that. So I feel like I'm going to arch my back. Okay. So if I come all the way back up again, finding that place where the back of my shoulders are nice and heavy. And I'm going to start to take my arms back down again, just again rolling them on this floor. Now the back of me hasn't changed. Back of my tail, back of my ribs, back of my head is the same. And then as I sigh, they stay the same, and I'm trying to pull from that little finger side of the arm, from the armpit, to bring me back up. Keep going for me. So it's almost like the armpit muscle has to kind of give and change and stretch as we go overhead. And then as we sigh, the arm bone drops into the floor for the same muscle to bring us up. Now, don't worry if your sides feel different. We are asymmetrical beings by nature. That's okay. But notice, as you're moving your arms, those 3 heavy points. Are they staying the same? This is a huge thing to know. This gives us our rib to pelvis awareness, which means when we start to change that into standing, into side lying, onto your tummy, we can start to create that natural tension that keeps them balancing above each other so that we can create that stability. And then my final thing in this is how many of you are holding your breaths, or are you just naturally breathing? Beautiful. Let those hands come down. You're going to take your time and walk your feet really nice and wide on that mat. Hands are going to come a little bit more out to the side. And you're going to let both legs drop over to one side, and your head can kind of just fall in the other. Now, you will be on your inside or outside border of your feet, but your top leg, I want you to try and reach it towards the other ankle. It's like you're trying to get the knee to the foot, but without the feet moving on the floor. And then you're going to bring that back up, let yourself shift to the center, take yourself over to the other side. So again, this top thigh is trying to reach away from you and down towards the leg. You're going to get a really lovely stretch through the front of your thigh. We're just going to do one more to each side. And with something like this, I want you to see if you can get the movement to come from your feet. So your feet will rotate you back. So if you send your feet back to the floor, the rest of you will just naturally follow all the way over. And then come all the way back. Walk your feet together, and we're going to start to roll onto our side. And we're going to come all the way over onto your tummy. Now, we're not going to quite relax here. So what you can do is you can grab your pillows if you want to, but you're going to allow your nose to always be just slightly hovered off the floor, okay? And that will immediately activate the back of you. Now, before you do that, we need to find out where your pubic bone goes. So I want you to first come down. Hands are going to be by your chest so that your hands are sort of in line with your nipples. And you're going to come down to that nose hover. So can you keep your nose literally a breath of fresh air away from the floor? And I want you to go back into your pelvic tilts. So you're going to tuck that pelvis under. You're going to stick your bottom out. It'll go up in the air. You're going to tuck your pelvis under. And it'll feel a bit weird here. But just see if you can move between those two movements and notice what difference it has on your legs. Now, you're going to pause here, shake everything off, and see if you can just push that pubic bone into the floor. So you're aiming to get your pubic bone to come straight through and into the floor. It's like someone's holding onto your tail and is just pressing it straight down. Now, if you relax that again, and you're going to do that again, so press your pubic bone into the floor, and then let it go. And I want you to notice on this next one, what happens to your lower back. So as you press that pubic bone into the floor, can you feel that your lower back starts to flatten a little bit? And then let it go. We're going to do one more there. And again, can you this time feel that your legs start to do a bit of something and your bottom starts to work a little bit more? And suddenly you can feel your pubic bone on the floor a little bit more. Pause here. We're going to come into what we call a prone press. So if your elbows have been flopping out to the side, bring them nice and narrow, and you'll feel that as they come narrow, your chest will naturally open, your shoulders will naturally come kind of more open across the front, and you'll feel the back of your upper back working to sort of hold them in a little bit. Now, keep that pubic bone pressing into the floor. It should stay heavy. Reach those feet away, and you're just going to press into your hands just a little bit in order to come up. How high do you come? Only as low or only as high as your lowest rib stays on the floor. And then you're going to come all the way back down again. So as you can see, this is very much an upper back movement. So this is not going into your lower back. This is purely, again, can we let your rib cage rotate around your spine? But this time we're going in the opposite direction, so we're coming into extension. Now when we do all of these moves, we're protecting ourselves still, we're creating kind of tone somewhere, we're getting things to work to support us, and that's coming from your legs. So as your pubic bone is pressing into the floor, your legs get a little bit straighter. And can you get your legs as straight as possible? And I want you to point your toes like the best ballerina in the world. Now our videographer is an ex-professional dancer himself, so he's probably laughing at my attempt at pointing my feet, but I promise you that they are trying to point. But can you keep your legs straight and on the floor as you come up and down? Now you'll start to feel this building in your upper back, and yes, you may feel some of the muscles in your lower back working. Now one of the first things is that is okay. We've got some massive muscles that come down into it, so we want them to work. But we're going to do just 2 more. And we're going to make this our last one. The important thing is about your lower back is that it's not pinching anywhere. And then I'm just going to get you to pause, relax your bottom. Just take your hands to the floor, let your head just rest, and you're just going to shake out your bottom. Let all of that go. Just move it side to side for us. Make it as easy as you possibly can. Head nice and heavy. And we're going to be taking that into just your legs moving. Okay, there's lots of movements in Pilates where we come into that extension like that. There's lots of movements where we also come into hip extension. So when the leg comes behind you. And we're going to do the same thing. But we're going to do it, again, by keeping that nose slightly hovered off the floor. Now, if that was a little bit too much, you can have a pillow so that your head is just rested either onto your hands like this or onto some pillows for your forehead. But ideally, we're going to bring our hands back down by our side, elbows down this time, and forehead is just hovering. Now, that's because it gives us that activation in the back of us already. If you press that pubic bone back into the floor, try and get those legs as long and straight as you possibly can, and see if you can feel a little bit of openness into your chest. So if you press down a little bit into your chest or into your hands, your chest will feel like it's slightly opening. And we're going to move our legs. So you might see me occasionally kind of wobbling my head around. Now that's because I want to make sure I'm not holding on and really holding still. So occasionally I just make little circles with my nose to make sure that my muscles are working an appropriate amount. So from here, we're going to reach one leg so far away from us, it starts to want to lift up. And you'll notice your pubic bone getting heavier. And it's going to reach all the way back to the floor. We're going to go with the other side. So can the other side reach so far away, it starts to come up. And then it comes back down again. So we're going to keep alternating between the sides. Now what you should feel is that maybe the bottom of your foot, your calf, the back of your thigh, your bottom, the back of your back, your neck, all of the back of your body is working. And if you really try and reach away from you like there's someone pulling your big toe so that that knee is completely straight, hold it there, just check in. Is your knee bent like mine just did? Or can you straighten it any more so the front of your body is also supporting you? And you come back down again. Keep that on as the other side goes. So we're not going to relax in between each one. But really check that the knee is as straight as it can be. We're not bending those knees and walking around like a kind of never being able to extend our knees. We want to, in positions like this, to go into your full knee straight. If that means you hyperextend, that's okay. This is a safe place to do it. So we're just going to go one more each side. We'll make this one our last one. And then pause. Press yourself up onto your hands. We're going to come back into a child's pose. Now for child's pose, you always have a couple of options, but if we go knees wide, feet together, you can put some pillows kind of between your bottom and your heels, and you're just going to allow yourself to rest on the floor. So the aim of the game is we get your bottom towards your heels. Now if you can't get there because of hip mobility, that's okay. This is where your pillows come in. So just gently let your forehead rest and settle on the mat so you can let all the tension kind of roll out. You can even roll your forehead on that mat if you want to. But just take a few seconds to allow your back to settle and just go in the opposite direction. And then when you're ready, we're going to come up and onto all fours. So, weight bearing. Now this is key because we will do this a lot in a lot of classes. So what we actually want, instead of your middle finger going straight up your mat, we actually want your pointer finger to go straight up your mat. Which means if you just put your hands down and have your pointer finger straight, you'll see your hands are slightly outwardly turned. If your middle finger is straight, your hands are slightly inwardly rotated. So turn them back to your pointer finger pointing up your mat and just bring your weight forward. Now, remember, your legs are bigger than your arms. So how much weight do we want in your legs? More than your arms. So we're not aiming for an equal distance. We're aiming, for me, for about 65% of the weight into your legs. Now, if you struggle with your wrists, I want you to be here for a little bit. Then you can either make a light fist or you can come down onto your elbows. But most of the time we can't weight bear. It's partly because we're too far forward and because our wrists just aren't very strong because we don't generally walk around on our hands. So what I want you to feel is that you can press your fingertips into the floor a little bit, like you're trying to create a bit of an arch in your hand, just like we've got the arch in your feet. So your hands aren't just flopping down, they're actively pressing into the floor. And again, send about 65%, maybe even 70% of the weight into your legs. And we're going to just start with a cat-cow. So where does that come from? It comes from your pelvic tilt. So you're going to start to tuck your tailbone under. That's going to respond through your whole spine, for your whole spine to arch up. And really press into the floor here and really try and turn that tailbone backwards so you're creating as much of an arch as possible. It's like I've got a super soaker, I'm lying underneath you and I'm shooting it up into your tummy. Now, remember your sit bones and how we felt them coming together and apart? Feel like your sit bones can come apart. Start to spread your sit bones as your tailbone goes the other way, which allows your spine to just go in the opposite direction. And your head will follow. Now, have you sunk into your shoulders or have you kept pressing down into the ground? So we want that space between your shoulder blades. Your breastbone is trying to come up and through. The next question I'm going to ask you is, are you looking forward or are you looking at the top of your mat? So if you look at your screen, you can see when I'm looking forward, I've got a big curve in my neck and my neck is now not following my spine. But if I look this way, my neck is suddenly a little bit more active and it's following my spine rather than just dropping into all its happy places. So then from here again, can you tuck that tailbone? We're going to go super slow motion because if we do that, you'll hopefully feel each part of your spine come up into that curve, that super soaker, don't hit my tummy kind of place. And then spread your sit bones. Let your bottom relax. Again, go really, 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 really slow. I want you to feel that everything across your sit bones, across your lower back is widening. You're still standing into your hands, trying to keep yourself out of the floor. And we're going to keep going between those two movements. Now, I'm making you do this really slow because that requires an awful lot more control. It also means you'll start to build up more body awareness. So can you delay each part moving? Imagine your pelvis is going to move first, and that's just going to trickle up your spine. It's like I'm almost there with you, walking up your spine, and your neck is staying involved. This isn't in your lower back. There's no pinching, there's nothing like that. And that's partly because you're really going to stand into your arms. So they have to be nice and active here. Keep those fingertips pressing into the floor as you come up and down. Good. We're just going to go one more there, all the way. Feeling that lovely tight turn. And then unravel. Last time. To come up and through. Good. From there, just sit yourself back, come off your wrist. You can just give your wrist a little bit of a roll. We're going to do one more weight bearing exercise and then we'll come up into something else. So this one's called a knee hover, and you'll see it come up in a lot of classes, either in an advanced class as some prep work or as an advanced abdominals exercise. But it's a really great one to get both your back and your tummy working. And it's pretty, in some ways it's pretty straightforward, not much can go wrong. So from here, come back onto your hands again, index finger pointing up the mat, but this time we're going to tuck our toes under. Now a knee hover is exactly what it says in the tin. We're going to hover our knees. So part of the reasoning for cat-cow, so that was this flexion and extension one, is where is your middle ground? So remember when I got you to lie on your back and I spoke about back of your neck, back of your ribs, back of your pelvis being nice and heavy. If I was to put a board down your back, would you feel the same thing? So are you arched a little bit more, which is where I naturally kind of want to be, or are you kind of tucked under a little bit more and you're squeezing your bottom? Okay, if you're in, those are the two places that most people sit in. So can you just relax your bottom? And what we want is that there is this little bit of a curve in your lower back. There's a bit of a curve out in your up in your mid back, and then your head, back of your crown of your head is just meeting it. So best thing you can do if you're not sure, film yourself, watch it back, do it in front of a mirror, see what you can see. If you've got glass or even a fridge or something that's metallic nearby, you might be able to see it in that. But are you roughly in those natural curves? Now, to weight bear, we need to use our hands and our feet. So again, I want you to really press into the floor and then let your shoulder blades just come together. Press down into the floor. You'll feel your spine lift up and then relax the weight. Let your shoulder blades come together. So we're just encouraging your shoulder blades to roll around your spine, but we're keeping your spine the same. Your bottom of your feet might be getting a nice stretch at the moment, so you might find that you're feeling things getting cramp, or they just don't really want to be there very much, and you keep kind of untucking and doing that. See if you can stay with it. It's really good to stretch out the bottom of your feet. We're just going to do this as our last one. And then from here, what I want you to do is you're going to push yourself all the way up, and we're going to stay there. Again, a little bit of pressure into your fingers for us. Tuck those toes under. Your big toe needs to be on the floor too. And if you really stand into your hands and stand into your feet, you'll notice your tummy switch on and your knees can just hover. Hold it there. Breathe. And then slowly come back down again. Take a second. When you're ready, we're going to go again. But this time I want you to feel that your knees are going to slightly pull towards your hands. So as you stand into your hands and into your feet, you'll feel your tummy switch on. pull your knees towards your hands to come up a little bit. Hold it there, you'll feel the front of your thighs as well as your tummy. And then lower yourself back down. Now this is a great one to do a little bit of every day, because that will just give you global strength both in your upper arms, your tummy, your legs. It'll stretch out your feet. It's all just wonderful. We're going to go again. So stand into those hands, stand into those feet, feel things switch on, and then move. Okay, I'm just trying to draw your awareness to lots of things. This is why technique comes in. Feel what happens when you do one thing, what's the response? And back down again. Last one here. So press into your hands, you'll feel your chest lift. Press into your feet, you'll feel your tummy switch on. And then pull your knees towards your hands, you'll feel yourself come up. Can you breathe? And then lower yourself back down, untuck those feet. Come off your hands. You can give them a little bit of a wriggle if you want. You can almost hold one hand and pull it apart. That will just give you a little bit of a stretch into those wrists. And then when you're ready, we're going to come all the way up to standing. So from here, we're going to look at a squat, a really normal squat. And what I want you to do is you're going to take your feet wide. Now I'm going to stand sideways on so you can see what's going on. And when your feet are wide, if you look down at them, if your feet face forward, then your kneecaps will turn in. You'll feel a bit of a pull in your legs. Turn your feet out. It's much nicer, it feels much better, and that's the direction we want our legs to go. So with your hands either on your hips, out in front of you, wherever you want them to be, all you're going to do is relax your bottom and sit back like you're sitting on a high bar stool. So we've kind of gone that way. And you're going to keep that going. So spread through your sit bones in order to sit down. And yes, you can sit onto a chair or a sofa, but your body leans forward. And then push into your heels in order to come up. Straight back up to standing. Now, when you're in standing, have you come through and you're now sort of standing like this? So your pelvis has come forward, or has your pelvis come underneath to meet your rib cage? Okay, so your rib hasn't gone up that way, it hasn't fallen back. It's just the little bit at the end is that pelvic tilt coming underneath. You'll feel your tummy muscles switch on, you'll feel your glutes switch on, but we're not squeezing them. At this point, you release, spread, hips go back, chest comes forward, we sit down. You are relaxed in your bottom here. Press into your heels, you'll feel your bottom respond to come up and through, but not at the expense of coming forward. We go again. Spread, let everything across the back of you go. If your hands are like mine and they're in the front of your hips, the front of your hips are relatively soft here. Don't go anywhere, just push into your heels and you'll feel your bottom cheeks respond. Stand into your feet, come all the way up and through. Now if your hands weren't there, pop your hands on the front of your hips, give them a feel. Spread your sit bones, sit forward, come all the way down. And how low do you go? As low as you can control it, or where the back of your thighs are relatively parallel to the ground. We're going to do just one more here. All the way down. Yes, your nose is forward. I can wiggle my toes. And then stand all the way back up again. And we're going to pause with that one. And we're going to go into my favorite exercise in the world, which is scooter. And that's the start of that movement. So we're not going to sit all the way down and do it, but we're really going to get some glute firing. So from here, I want you to sit, so feet underneath your hip bones. And your hip bones are, if you think this is your knicker line, your bony bits in the middle of your socket is where we want you to be in line. So again, I'll face sideways. So if you sit your hips back a little bit, it's like you've almost been karate chopped in your hips. You're now working against gravity with your back, and you've created these natural curves again. If we stand, so you transfer the weight to one side, stand down into the heel, you will feel the other leg can get a bit lighter. Now, if you're on a really squidgy mat, you might want to hold on to something. Okay, you can hold on to a chair, a wall, a person, or you can come off your mat and be on a bit more of a stable floor. This will give you a balance challenge as well. So from here, you're going to slide your leg back. It's always the same. We go all the way to leg straight. I don't want to see you bending your knee here. Get that working all the way to leg straight, and you'll feel the back of your leg fire up. And then fold it back in again. And we're just going to do that again. So you're going to just keep going. Now, your hands can be on your hips, or they can be out to the side balancing you if you want. But what you should feel is that in the front of your static leg, so I'm standing onto my left leg, is that, again, there's no real guitar strings in the front of my hip. So my muscle is working, but it's not gripping on or trying to do anything. Now, if you're starting to feel this across your lower back and it's getting a bit much, I want you to just actually lean forward. Okay, so you saw that, you're gonna let your rib cage just lean forward, because it might be that you're trying to stand up and we don't have the hip extension. So if you don't have that hip extension, you will generally move from your back, and that's why you'll start to get a little bit more of an arch. So instead of trying to stand upright, lean forward. That's the first place. And you should be feeling that static glute by now. So that bottom muscle's working, you're pressing into your heel, your foot is shifting and changing, and the other leg is just swinging in and out. And we're just going to do a couple more there. Those toes on the left foot should be able to wiggle. Last one. Pause there, put the weight into both legs. So you're now into a little high squat again. Can you press down into the other leg so that your other leg can feel lighter? And we're going to do exactly the same. So slide the leg back, bring it forward. Can you get this knee all the way to straight? Can you push your heel of this static leg into the floor? That will fire up the back of your body a bit more and get you to feel all those stability muscles. Now, if you want to hold on to something, you can, but just take a look at your knee, and it should be roughly in line with your second and third toe. Now, if it's not, and it's over your big toe, I want you to see if you can bring it over your second and third toe. And then just notice if that meant the weight came off your big toe. Now, can you keep your big toe on the floor? But can you then feel like you're almost sucking your thigh bone up and into the socket as you do this movement? So we're not getting that rotation of our thigh from our ankle bone, we're getting it from up in our glute. And if you do that, again, hold on, because if this is a balance challenge, you won't be able to do that. So hold on to something and give that a go, because you should feel that that gives you that little bit more of a kind of glute in here kind of position. So we're going to do one more there, and then put both feet on the floor, transfer the weight equally, and stand all the way back up again. Pause here. I'm going to turn to face you again. We're going to do just a roll down, but what I would like is your feet to be a little bit narrower than you would naturally feel. So if you kind of stand like that, we want them to be quite narrow underneath you, okay? And then all you're going to do is have your hands on your thighs. Now, for this, we're not going to come backwards. We're going to try and keep our legs nice and straight. And all I want you to do is slide your hands down your thigh. Don't worry about your head, don't worry about your chest, don't worry about anything like that. Just slide your hands down the front of your thighs. And then just let them hang. Now you can see, I'm not touching the floor. It doesn't matter how far and how low you get. And then all I want you to do is bring your hands back to your thighs, tuck your tailbone under like your cat-cow, like your pelvic tilt, and slide those hands back up your thighs. Now, the reason I'm saying to do it like this is if we nod our chin and curl our chest, you really pick up all that tension in your back, so it actually gives you less place to go. And again, just like everything, we want distributed movement. So with those hands on your thighs, if you take this slow, as you breathe out, because that naturally will let us drop, your shoulders will round forward, your rib cage will rotate, and your head will go with you, I promise. If you start to send your gaze to your feet, your head will go with you more. If you then let your gaze come up your legs as you go down, your head will go more. And then your hands can just hang, and you'll feel your shoulder blades fall around your rib cage. Weight is actually in the balls of your feet rather than in the back. And we're keeping those knees straight. So I could bend my knees if I wanted to. But the reason I'm keeping my knees straight is because it's like we're on an elastic band, and right now we're on full stretch. And then that elastic band is going to come back together again. So as you tuck that tailbone under, it will naturally pull you back. So this time, if you bent your knees, try and do it without for me. Again, just sigh, slide those hands down the front of your thighs. Keep the weight in the ball of your feet and find the point where you just can't go anymore. It's okay. You'll get a little bit lower every time. Hold it there, let everything hang out. Can you let your head just flop and let it just settle? You can nod and shake it around. And then from here, feel your pelvis roll backwards. That will feel your tummy muscles kick in to roll all the way back up. We're going to do just one more. So big breath in. Again, slide those hands. And that's the feeling. The hands will turn the shoulders inwards, which will help you almost slump forwards and just roll down. The weight in the front of your feet will stop your hips going backwards too much. And down here, we can just hang it out and let the whole upper body let go. And then as you turn your pelvis, you'll feel your tummy muscles kick in. You'll feel your shoulder blades turn back around your rib cage for you to come up to standing. Why not check out these related videos? Thanks for joining us, everyone.